In this video, we're going to go through the last three questions on that practice test. So with these last three questions, in 8 and 9, we're going to find an equation of a line without a graph and without being told all the information we need. So 8 and 9 are very similar questions. Let's go with one that's a little more basic. In number 8, you'll notice that in the information, we're going to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Remember, that's y equals mx plus b. But we're told at the very beginning what our slope is. It says that we have a slope of 1 over 2. And again, keep remembering what that slope is represented by. We use the letter m. So right away, we see the slope is 1 over 2. Okay, so from there, we still need the y-intercept because that slope of 1 over 2, that's what goes in the first spot in our equation. It's our coefficient with x. So we have y equals 1/2 x. What we don't know yet is what goes at the end of our equation. So with that, what we're going to do is keep reading here, and it says that our line passes through the point -2, 5. Now, the thing with that is -2, 5 is not our y-intercept. We know that because it doesn't start with a 0. So what we have instead is just another point on our line, which is fine. A line goes through many points, not just 2. We only draw 2 when we're trying to graph, but there are many other points that we could draw. But what we see right here is this point has an x value of -2, a y value of 5. And what we can do is we can find this last number we need. We need to know what the y-intercept is. So if we go over here to the side, we see our formula is y equals mx plus b. If we can use our three numbers, we can find b. So what we're going to do is use this formula. We're going to replace the y with a 5. And then after the equal sign, we have m. So our slope is m. So we'll put that 1/2 in this spot. And then after m is x, and again, in our point over here, x is a value of -2. So I'll put that -2 here. So we took the three numbers that we were given in our sentence up above and just put them in the according spot in our equation, our formula here. What that's going to allow us to do is to find this b at the end. We're going to find a value of b. So after this, we have 5 is equal to something. And those parentheses over there, they're telling us to multiply. So what we're going to do is multiply those two numbers together in parentheses. And you can either do that on your own, you can use a calculator. If we pull out Desmos, we can type our parentheses to where we have 1 over 2 times -2, and it's going to tell us right there that we get -1 when we multiply. So what we can do now is we can replace this 1/2 times -2 with a -1. So that becomes -1 now, but we still have this plus b. So remember when you solve equations, there are two sides. You have the left side of the equal sign and the right side of the equal sign. And this b is on the right side, but it's still with this -1 over here. So we want to cancel that -1. So what we're going to do next is perform the opposite operation. A -1 means -1, and the opposite of minus is plus. We're going to add 1 on each side of this equation. What that does for us is it cancels away the -1 that we had. Now, all you have over here is b. And on the left side, we have 5 plus 1, which is 6. And 6 is that last value we needed. A positive 6 is what we got. That's your value for b. That's what goes in the last spot of our equations. b is positive 6, and we have our equation. Y equals 1/2 x plus 6. Okay, so let's look at another scenario that's very similar. It just didn't give us as much information. Notice everything over here is set up exactly like it was in the last question. What's different this time is when you read our sentence, we're told to find an equation of a line in slope-intercept form, but then it doesn't say that what the slope is. In the last problem, we were immediately told after that the slope was 1 over 2. In this next scenario, we're not given that, but that's why we have this slope formula. It helps us find that slope. So what we have is 2 points on our line. And just like before, remember, in each ordered pair, the first number is x. So this x is our first x. So we have our first x, x1. Here's the second x. And then we have our y values. Since this is the first y value listed, we'll put it y1. x1 and y1 should always be together. Same thing over here. This is the second y value you got, so we'll call it y2. And again, x2 and y2 should be in the same places. So what we're going to do is find our slope, same way you always have. Look at what you have. The formula starts with y2, your second y value. That's a -2. And then we have minus, and then y1, that's 8. x2, we go back here. If we look at x2, it looks like that is also a +8. So we're going to put an 8 in this next spot. And then x number 1, that's -8. So we'll put a -8 here. All right, so we have everything set up. We can type these into our calculator. I still have mine set up from earlier. So we're going to put -2 minus 8 in the top of our calculator and 8 minus -8 in the denominator. So let's go back to that one. We've got -2. I'm actually going to clear this out so we can see it a little bit easier. So -2, I already forgot, minus 8 and 8 and -8. So -2 minus 8. Down here we have 8 minus -8. Remember, you can pause the video anytime if I go a little too fast. That does reduce down. Again, you might see a decimal first, but we have the fraction conversion. The slope we want is -5/8. So going back here, we found our slope is -5/8, and that is halfway there, everybody. If you know your slope, you know it goes in this first blank, then that's the first blank you get to fill in your formula. So for your equation, you have y equals -5/8 before that x. So the only thing that's left for us to find is what is b, and that's why you have this next formula ready to go. So we need to find b. We're going to perform this just like the last one, where it doesn't tell us the y-intercept, but we can use a point on our line. So for this particular scenario, let's go ahead and use our first point. It doesn't matter which one of these that we pick, but let's go ahead and pick the first one just for convenience. You can pick the first point every time just to make it easy. So we have -8 and 8. By the way, it does not matter which point you pick. They're both going to get us the same answer when we're done. So I'm just going to default pick the first ordered pair. We have -8, +8. Remember where those came from. The first number is x. The second number is y. So let's put these over in the formula here. The formula that starts with the letter y, we'll look for y. Underneath that is an 8. After the 8, we have the slope. We have m. M is -5/8. And after m, we have the letter x. Going back to our labels, x is a -8, and we'll put that here. Okay, so just like before, we are going to simplify this. We have 8 on the left, before the equal sign, on the left side of it, equals, and what we need to do right now is we need to multiply these two numbers, -5/8 and -8. So I'm going back to that. -5/8 and -8, if we multiply those together, let's see what we get. So -5/8 times -8. You're going to notice we get a whole number answer. It's +5. Meaning when we multiply these two numbers together, we get a +5. We can replace this with that result. So +5 here, but don't forget, we still had a plus b at the end. Okay, so we have that. Here is our equal sign. So again, we have what's on the left side of the equal sign. We have things on the right side. On the right side with b, we still have this +5. So we want to cancel that +5 right now. All we need to do is subtract. If that is a positive, we need a negative, and negative is the same as subtraction. So we have -5 here, -5 over here. That's going to solve for b because these 5s are now canceled. B is on the right side by itself. Over here, we have 8 minus 5. That's 3. And so we see that 3 is equal to B. We have our B value. It's positive 3. And that is the last spot here. Negative 5 over 8x plus 3 will finish out our equation. So 8 and 9 both work the same way. The only difference with this problem is we need to find the slope at the beginning. Okay, the last page only has an application. This is actually a question from a previous assignment right before this practice test, but in case you didn't get all the way there, I went ahead and put it on the practice test for us to review. This was about working at a coffee shop and talking about how you're going to make the drinks. This one in particular is discussing what flavors are going into the drinks. So we're talking about vanilla and caramel syrups. So for this scenario, remember we were looking at what the variables are representing. So in this first case, we see that X is the number of pumps of vanilla syrup. And when we look over here, we see the word vanilla. And so if vanilla syrup has 10 sweetness units, so what we can do is we can put this number 10 with that letter X. In my equation, that's what I'll do. I'll put a 10 in this first spot. After that, if we keep looking, we're told that Y is the number of pumps of caramel syrup. And we see over here again, caramel syrup has 4 sweetness units per pump. So with that letter Y, we'll put the number 4. At the end should be our total, and that total is represented here. How many sweetness units we have. So 30 is going to be that total that we're shooting for. That is the goal. That's the total amount that we want. What I've done is I've already graphed this line for you, but what we would do is we'd go to our graphing calculator, 10x plus 4y equals 30, and it's going to show us some points here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use these points to help us analyze. So we're looking here, and it says, based on your graph, if the customer wants only vanilla, how many pumps will they get? Well, only vanilla, let's think of what that means. If we want only vanilla, that means that we're going to have no caramel. So that means vanilla, that's going to be a certain amount. But for caramel syrup, that means that we're going to have zero pumps of the caramel. So no caramel is going into these drinks. What we need to do is think about what the graph is showing us. So for this particular graph, we have 0 pumps of caramel, and caramel is this area here on the left side. These numbers are for caramel, and if we're going to have 0 caramel, we need to go all the way down to the bottom of this line where 0 is located. From there, we can follow 0 over to see how many pumps of vanilla would go with that. So looking here again, we see 0 pumps of caramel corresponds to 3 pumps of vanilla. And at this point, we have that ordered pair, 3, 0, where 3 represents our pumps of vanilla, 0 is your pumps of caramel syrup. So I can go back up here and we can realize, oh, with 0 pumps of caramel, that means that we could have 3 pumps of vanilla to hit our sweetness level that we're looking for. In the next one, it's asking, what if we did 2 pumps of caramel syrup? Okay, so if we did, or 2 pumps of vanilla, I apologize. So 2 pumps of vanilla. So let's think about where that label is. Vanilla is at the x-axis at the bottom of our graph, and 2 is right here. So we have 2 pumps of vanilla. What we need to do is follow that to a point, and we see that right there. There's that number 2. And for 2 pumps of vanilla, we see that that lines up with 2.5 on the y-axis, which represents our caramel syrup. So this ordered pair, that 2 is for vanilla, 2.5 is for the caramel syrup. And so we can represent that over here as well. We can say, if we have 2 pumps of vanilla, so if vanilla is 2 pumps, then to hit our sweetness level that we're looking for the caramel syrup, we will do 2.5 pumps. The last one is asking us, okay, we're trying to hit this sweetness level of 30, and we have some options. One way to do that is 3 pumps of vanilla, 0 pumps of caramel. Another way would be 2 pumps of vanilla and 2.5 pumps of caramel. Both of those get us that sweetness level that we want. The last question is asking, is there a way to do that to where the total number of pumps is 6? Because in number 1, the sweetness level was achieved with just 3 pumps total, 3 vanilla. In the second scenario, we only had 4.5 pumps in total. What I'm doing is I'm looking at these 3 points, or these 4 points that we see on our line. Do any of them reach that goal that we're looking for? Do any of these reach that goal of exactly 6 pumps? And if we look closely, we can add up the numbers. 3 plus 0 is only 3, so that's not enough. Keep looking, and we see 2 and 2.5. We already talked about that one. That's 4.5. But if we go right here, this point has 1 pump of vanilla. That's what the 1 at the bottom means. And 5 pumps of caramel syrup. And 1 plus 5 is equal to 6. So we're looking at that order pair 1, 5. And that order pair 1, 5 has 2 numbers that add to 6. So that's what this question is asking. There is a way to achieve our sweetness level with exactly 6 total pumps of flavorings. The way for that to happen would be to use 1 pump of vanilla. And for the caramel, we have 5 pumps that would have to be included. And that's the end of our practice test. So use this video to help you. I hope it was helpful. Make sure you go back to the other video that shows questions 1 through 7 if you need those. All right, good luck studying, guys.